Where the boys at? As the new meta is unfolding and GW has been coming out with new models, new detachment rules, hinting at 11th edition, do the Orks still have what it takes to be lean, mean fighting machines? So today on WAAAGH Wednesday, we're going to look at some honorable mentions, some good player results over the past couple weekends. It's been a while since we did one of these streams, so hello to the live chat. Whoa! And so we're going to look over some players. I picked one out of someone that I thought had a fun win path and also lists. Then we'll look at the stats, and we'll also look at the stats and the facts, how the Orks are doing overall in the meta with the detachments, play them out as well. And then if we have player coverage or notes, that'll be cool to go on. Like if you're one of the players who I talk about, feel free to chat in. So welcome everybody. Let's get stuck in, lads. So just going straight into the stats and the facts. So let me see. I'm gonna make it look a little better on your screen, hopefully, because you guys can't see nothing. All right, now it's right in your face. So now we can't see nothing together. All right, so right off the bat, just to point out, the majority of players are absolutely still War Horde. So take that with a grain of salt as you're looking to win percentages, right? There's always people that are experts or more drawn out collections. These are from since Eldar got nerfed to the present, or where these stats are from as well. Shout out to Stats Uber. Ooh. At the top of our win rate, though, we still have a Cult of Speed making its appearance, shining through the darkness. It was always creeping up last meta, what was going on, and now I think for the most part, it's a lot of mid-casual RTT style, player base, just kind of getting wins and such. Not any real big event wins. They might even also be the team events that are going on, where a Cult of Speed list and expertise would perfect to just catch someone off guard, throw them in their face. They don't understand how the Cult of Speed matchup works. They play it like normal Orks, and it doesn't go that well. So they're not winning anything like right now, in singles that I've seen too much. If there is one, let me know. I'll have to keep looking for it. It shows some event wins, but those were also including prior to the changes, those wins at least, but not the win rate. So then we go. So shout out to those guys who have been doing it. I think it's really one of those expertise kind of niche factions. Really a good strength and niche way to play Orks for sure. Absolutely love it. I'm having a great time with it. Personally myself. Then War Horde, which is pretty much the base of the Orks right now, of course, is sitting at 47.5 or 48, whatever. And somewhere between the region of 40 in the high 40s. So that's at the very lowest end, kind of getting near the lowest end of what GW's acceptable range is. We're also not going out and winning too many events from what I've seen. Still, since then, we still have time, of course. Shout out to Mark Perry for winning an event, but he didn't win it with War Horde. But we have seen some good X and 1 performances. So when we go into the honorable mentions that I'm going to mention here in a second, before I look at the list and such, a lot of 4-1 type Ork lists appearing. So shout out to Ork players that are still doing that. We'll look at those archetypes, some of those lists and such, and talk about that a bit. Though we still have the Gaz being the real backbone of every War Horde list that's making a splash at least. Then we go into Green Tide, which its win rate, could be a little deceptive as it's 43, but they're also one of the other ones that's getting about 4-1 results out there. But remember, that's usually specialists that already figured out Green Tide. If you're someone that's just picking it up, it can be backbreaking in the literal sense. But I still think it's also a solid meta choice, like I said before, especially with how the gas changed helped it, so we can continue to put them damage on people and kind of push that WAAAGH through. I would definitely like to see more of maybe how that's win rate's been brought down, but hey, it is what it is. What's been brought up though is more DACA. Now, is that because of Mark Perry? Not sure, but it is for the most part. Shout out to the Ork community that did respond to that video and are running, from what I know, at least within my community, my anecdotal understanding. People are picking up more DACA in different ways, coming fun results, not getting big event wins and such. And but you can do some interesting things with more DACA in a weird way. So it's slowly catching more people's attention, getting a revive after getting super nerf from GW. So the fact that it has any play at all is really a testament to the Ork community, not to GW's understanding of rules for the Orks. But where the Orks are a little bit down, in my opinion, is actually Bully Boys to a degree, right? It's that detachment we really want to enjoy and have fun with. I think people do still run in, let's say on like WTC, I feel like it's more common a little bit to some people, maybe even for teams. People might like those as well, which I've known a couple people that run Bully Boys for teams that like to do that. But for singles, you know, you're a lot of the time gonna have to go into the armies that are gonna give Bully Boys a rough time, and the matchup where they can just deliver the right damage to you and kind of withstand the not too outstanding damage in the Bully Boys. So shout out to the Bully Boys kids that are still running it through. You know, the popularity of the Ork players of we'll call the other detachments outside of Warhorde is pretty spread out right now in a good way. So yeah, shout out to Bully Boys, usually a bit more at the top, but now it's kind of in the middle. Then we go to the Hunt, 40% win rate, really kind of dropping, but I understand it's very niche as well, super highly limited. It can be very punching. And sometimes people just run it because their starter, you know, battle force boxes and such and combat patrols they got. So no shame in the Hunt players. Definitely has teeth. I've definitely hear a lot of good things about it. I personally put it to the side, you know, but it's okay. That doesn't mean I don't recognize its potential. Then we go to Tactical Brigade, which really we've, you know, shout out to Brandon. We have the video on that. One of the players that did end up going 4-1 recently with Tactical Brigade and his way being innovative and such, but for the most part, people are kind of still struggling with Tactical Brigade. And I'd like to definitely hear more about that. As for what people are kind of running in the chat or comments, let me know, you know, why is that still the appeal? You really want strats to work, or are you just kind of running a bunch of Storm Boys, right? Me personally, I love the version that talked about with Brandon for the most part, and not a ton of the other versions that I've seen out there, right? Very toolboxy, which can be cool, but also, you know, he only got that one tool for that one go turn. So 40K typically is built about redundancy. So there is a factor in that as well. That's interesting just to kind of talk over. But shout out to the chat popping off right now. Whoa, yeah, the Hunt is pretty fun. I see. Don't worry, I'll talk to you chat in a second, right before I move on to the next section. Just wanted to look at the stats and the fact real quick while we're here. Then we go on to my beloved Dread Mob. I am definitely a big fan of Dread Mob. I did a community poll out for what people want to see me play when I do After Action Report, and they're like, okay, we're done with Cult of Speed. WAAAGH Tactics, move on, which is cool. So shout out to the channel members for voting for that. But it came to Bully Boys and Dread Mob as the top two, right? And I would say that's definitely putting up my favorite detachment into my not as favorite detachment personally to play. So that's interesting in that fact. But as you can see, Dread Mob is the worst performing, yet the second most popular Ork detachment. So shout out to the Ork community for giving Dread Mob that love. I actually appreciate that for you guys running it. I think being big and stompy is absolutely brutal right now, right? If you're running around with Morkanauts and Gorkanauts, disgusting out there where you can end up taking into the face and damage, then you still actually have to stomp having a good time. So shout out to all you guys that are figuring it out. Some people talking about my Dread Mob that the killicans, right? They want to try killicans and such are fun, but you got to figure that out and take some on the chin while you're trying to play killican. So I totally get it. Shout out to the one guy. I'm having a brain fart right now. Some forgive me, but on his name, but running in the out in the European circuit over there with WTC terrain. He's running like 18 killicans. I am brain fart right now. I can't believe I don't remember. But he's still out there running 18 killicans like a mad lad. So I love that guy. And shout out to everybody who still plays Dread Mob. I think it really does have teeth into certain stuff, but that's a video for another time. I've definitely broken that down a bunch of times. But move on to, let me talk to the chat now. And as I talk to the chat, reminder to everybody, while let's get into this, we have the paint competition. So of course you input a picture of the newest Red Gobbo, the Tin Boy, and add that to our Discord or our Facebook to get an entry going in on the Facebook group or the Discord as well. Give me some pictures and such, and then of course you can win some dice from Baron of Dice. So check out the Baron of Dice and check out those paint competitions to the community, because anyone can enter. And as to the chat saying right now, shout out to the channel members that are all here. Guys, I said early, what's up, Arcane? Whoa, and everybody who's here. Blood Moons, Jenk, what's up? People are talking about Dread Mob is in shambles. And how are we feeling about Orks? Painting up Dread Mob. There we go. I've seen the 12 cans picking up Katans with them. So as we're going to move into the honorable mentions from here. Chat, keep it up because don't worry, this is live, so I'm gonna go and talk to chat in a little bit. So here we get the honorable mentions. Now I didn't type it into the display you're looking at the slide right now, but of course this is up for essentially a vote for the most part between the 4-1 list and the Edward. I actually should have taken out the Jordan one because that's the list I'm covering. So let me read all these out real quick. But so we have my boy Tom Godfrey. Shout out to Tom Godfrey making a run for #1 Ork. Still doing his thing out there. We covered him a bunch of times. 4-1, plays on the UKTC terrain typically. Absolutely big bossing it out there with his 4-1 run where he lost in the final round to the new Necrons. No shame there. Then we got Eric Tivas from the Hamburg, Germany with a major. He got 4-1 with his War Horde list. We have Nigel Perry with Nigel's Nuttas at the Green Tide run. So shout out to the Green Tide making an appearance there as well with the 4-1. Then we have the list I personally I chose, because I choose one. You guys vote on the other one. But Jordan Simon or Salon, whatever you want to tell that. My bad, buddy. I'm not good at reading. He went 4-2 at the Wet Coast GT with his War Horde list. I do have the missions and the layouts that he played, so we can talk about that as well for a bit. So I'm pretty excited about that. Then we have Jack Backman with 3-1-1 with his Glass Hammer GT. I believe he ended up tying with like a 90-point score into Custodes with that tie from off the top of my head from what I remember. So shout out to that kid. And then we have Edward Alaski with the Uprising in Adelaide with his 6-2 run with the War Horde. So the vote will be up to Eric, Nigel, Edward, and Backman. Oh, no, I'm already doing Backman. No, yeah, Backman. Sorry. Yes, Backman. Because I'm already doing Edward and Tom Godfrey. We covered him a bunch of times. So those are what we're going to be looking at possibly. Make sure you let me know with the poll. If you don't see a poll up in a little bit, let me know and I'll write one myself manually. But with that being said, before I move on to the next segment, I'll look at my chat again real quick. These are to the live guests. Shout out to the rewatch gang. If you're, hopefully it doesn't discourage y'all when I read the chats. What everybody's saying. A lot of WAAAGHs going on. People talking about how they still love the Dread Mob. See, that's what I'm talking about. The stats are reflecting in the community, the comments right now. So that's cool. I'm really looking forward to what's going on with Orks anyways. But before I go into this guy, I just want to say, we're looking at the overall Ork stats and everything. We're definitely right there in the middle, like C+ tier. I would say maybe a little higher, right? But still really relying on War Horde and Gaz and just kind of like getting the right matchups as well. So if you're struggling, don't worry about it. There's a lot of things still being kind of figured out overall in the meta. And Orks, for the most part, still have what it takes to win. Though you do have to up your basic fundamental skills a lot because we don't got a lot of finesse going on. But shout out to the list that I want to cover. Speaking of not too much finesse, no, I'm just joking. But what I mean by that is this is a very kind of consistent, samey, whatever you want to call it, to guys who are a little bit looking at a half empty kind of view of Ork lists that we've seen since Index Hammer, almost literally for the reasons that we're going to go over. Yet you can tell that Jordan is very aware of what it takes to run Orks and made good adjustments, in my opinion, that into this kind of like the basics and the strength, the most common version way to run Orks. Of course, when I say an Index Hammer, I don't mean with Gaz with 20 boys, but you would see Gaz still back then sometimes, and you would see other the units we're going to talk about here. So I like that we're bringing it back, but this is what I mean when you don't really got to be fancy with Orks. You get good at what you've been running, and you keep getting it stuck in and understanding the missions and the layouts and such, which I do actually have the missions and the layouts for what he went through here. If he was aware of these, it makes a lot of sense for what he ended up taking on this list. Now, of course, I am biased because straight off the bat, I'm going to point to the big pig in the room. We got Mazrog Scragbag on this list. Boy, I miss Maz, man. Woo! I miss old Maz, absolutely. But, there is something to be said, at least in our hearts, that we at least tried to consider running him as like a Demon Prince-esque type of thing, right? Where he's by himself, he increases his toughness by 1 to not being when he's not with Squigs, right? So at least he's a little bit more durable to small arms and weird different Bailey kind of profiles as well. So We got a solo Maz running around out here. No pigs in sight. Other than that, of course, we have the best big beast boss ever, which is just a beast boss on foot with 10 beast snagga boys. Nice and simple, beautiful, right? If you don't know how to use them yet, trust me, look at some of our videos, re-rolling 5, the hit roll, fishing for 5s and lethals. Great combination, especially when you're trying to deal with katans that are happening right now, one-shot demons that are running around a lot right now. There's a lot of reasons why you would stick this unit on your list absolutely every time, which is what it's been to be said since the beginning of the edition, guys, right? This is what we've been seeing the whole time and why he's so beloved. Then we go into the Big Mac with his Drilla and a custom Mega Blaster. And then he has Follow Me Lads, of course. That's with Gaz and the 20 boys. Absolutely. Starting on the table. Here we go when it's time to go. Chucking themselves up the field. Very fast, very awesome, especially when we look at the layouts that he was playing into. On this, you can just imagine the pressure the enemy is already feeling when you're looking at the rest of this list too. Then we go into the Boss Schnickra, which is something to be said about the amount of epic characters on the Orks list and just all 40k lists, like Tactical Turtles was saying the other day. But I appreciate it, and I think about it a lot, even on Orks. We're running a lot of Boss Schnickra, run a lot of Gaz, and then now we got some Maz or a Zod or whatever people want to say, right? What I will also mention to the guys that don't listen to lore or don't care, sorry, Boss Negrod doesn't actually like Gaz that much. So it's funny to see them kind of be forced to see him on the list all the time. Then we move on to a simple one individual war boss for 10 knobs. Now, to shuffle these gits around the field, we have 2 battle wagons. The time of the truck is over. Not really. I don't mean actually over. But we're seeing even more and more battle wagons being brought to the front, being used really as blitzer wagons where they're taking multiple units within them, and or being used as launching pads for other stuff such as Storm Boys, right? Because Storm Boys can actually go into battle wagons. So there's a lot of the time where you do kind of a leapfrog thing when you start with Storm Boys on each one, and then they disembark, move 3, run to their designated locations of staging up, and then you also have something else, embark, if you have the capacity to do that safely, right? If you don't, you can do it just 1 unit, for example. Now, to be ferried around in this unit, the interesting take here was that we see the 10-man flash gets bringing themselves back again, where it's always back and forth. You guys let me know in chat how you guys feel about this and comments after. What is your real take about a 10-man unit of flash gets in War Horde? Because I'm going to give mine, but I'm interested in this. There is a lot to be said about how it's just fantastic to have a unit that's just getting sustained lethal hits on 6s and shooting and fighting on the go turn in volume with the amount of punches they have, their threshold, the interesting strats that can still be used by them to be in War Horde, or even just a funny Overwatch, chipping units down, whatever. But people always go, "Well, just bring 5s for more activations." I'm totally cool with that, but the commitment it takes for enemies to just try to dislodge the whole 10 does take away from your other units. Now, if they pick out 2 different 5-man units, now you just have an inefficient unit, 2 little inefficient units. But if you try to chip away the 10-man, you take away 4. So that's 6. And the enemy has to go, okay, well, I have to continue doing that, or it's a very consistent, still punchy unit, right? So I actually kind of like it in this, especially when you're doing the kind of jumping transport kind of thing where somebody's trying to get into another one and move them around and shuffle them and disembark. There's something to be said about when the wagon gets popped, people disembark in different locations with the 5-mans to be safe. But ultimately, this is just about presence on the field, a one-shot activation potentials. That's really what you're looking for with this unit, and how Orks are trying to play with War Horde is, I just need to go. I just really need to hit right now and I'm not trying to have just these little units getting picked apart. Less and less often we're seeing the mass amounts of units of Orks being spread around everywhere, and then each one of those units kind of taking an enemy down, ganging up on enemy units or whatever. We're seeing less and less of that. It's looking like more and more big bricks, but that's just my little take. Tell me what you think. Then we go to, and comments are already replying right now, so don't worry, I'll read you guys before I go through his path to victory, because of course we do in his path to victory. But we also have the 2 minimum size unit of Gretchen, screen your backfield, absolutely never letting someone get behind you at this point. Then you have the almost staple mandatory 2 5-man units. Excuse me, I'm already breaking down what they are. 1 big 10-man unit of commandos into likely 2/5-man units. This was interesting because when the change first happened, people were like, well, the commando change didn't really matter that much. Ended up that they were assuming wrong. It definitely mattered a lot, just like the gas change did for the 20 boys. So you're bringing almost them on almost every list. Even with the snake rot thing, right? When you look at the old videos I did, I was like, is there gonna be a choice here? There wasn't a choice. We're taking 10. Both. All the infiltration, get up the field, make space, let's get it going. I love that. 10-man unit of knobs with a war balls. Then 2 5-man units of storm boys. So you can think of it as 2 different hammer units and a knob unit and 10 flash gets and 1 battle wagon, beast snagger boy, and maybe the storm boy start another one, or vice versa, where you switch the knobs to another one, depending on the layout and who's staging where and the matchup on who you got to deliver and hit them with. A lot of the time, the beast boss is either used as a later game post-wall thing, or if it's a Catan type unit, demon, you got to pull out 1 shot. It's on the gas timing. And if it's just like a Space Marine matchup, you might put them out a little earlier to deal with some of their light armor vehicles and commitments they plays there. So interesting how you can kind of figure out the beast boss. That's what I'm saying. He can kind of determine where he goes in the wagon based off that. For both the wagons, we have the zap gun and the hard case. Love the zap gun. If it goes off, you feel excellent. A lot of damage, like 4 damage and anti-vehicle, I believe, with good AP. So fun chipping in that way as well. And as we look at the layouts, which he played on layout 7 and 1, there's good places for the wagons to stage up, get to their stage position, wait there kind of safely for later in the game, and then pop out to kind of be late game bullies, touching objectives, getting into fights, throwing the OC around, right? That's actually the best way to use wagons, not to just throw them forward, let them soak up the damage early and hope you fall in an open spot, right? That's only kind of like last condition based off, I don't think you have enough firepower to follow up once you pop them. So that's interesting in that way. So I like this list. Enough yapping. Let me see your chats real quick. And I said enough yapping in this. Let me see chats, right? But I mean, let me look at the chats real quick. And then we'll talk about his path to victory, and I'll talk about the missions he played and the layout again some more. But shout out to our get right here, the Little Swim. Where's the... Where there's a wall, there's a way. Whoa, for the $5 super chat. Thank you very much. New to see you here. So nice to see you, and thank you very much for being so generous and being loud and proud as a new getter out here. So welcome. I see new spores are spawning all over the 40K universe as 11th edition and Dawn of War creep in. We hope to see more of you new gets around. So thank you very much. The Little Swim. This Little Swim, are you a grot? No, I'm just kidding. And then another one from my boy, the Blood Moons Murder, for 21 months. It's crazy to think that's 21 months, guys. Channel's been around for like almost 2.5 years or something like that. And Murder's been here the whole time. 10-man flash gets is the best Overwatch. Versatile, good stats. It's good because you can decide to pop lethal during that, right? And it's already built in sustain. It almost feels like a shooting phase. Even if you don't do it, just letting the enemy know you can do it makes them think sometimes, right? It's like, I got the option. If it's 5-man, they're like, nah, all right. But if it's a 10-man, they're like, oops, this might accidentally go wrong. You're like, I could just pop ammo run right now. Like, So yeah, shout out to you, Murder. Ooh. So let me know. Yeah, you guys are saying both. Chat's giving a pretty solid response, but comments, rewatch gang, you guys are going to let me know as well, I'm sure. Now, let's go to his path to victory right here. So here he is. He was the best of the people who took 2 losses. And, sometimes people are like, well, to be good, you have to go undefeated, and I need to absolutely X and 1 or more or greater. I look at just people that I think that had good runs and good event plays, or if you were, as to the individual, me or you and such, had a run similar to this, you would be somewhat proud, especially if you're playing Orks just because you love Orks and you stuck Moz on your list. So that's why I wanted to show it, right? It's about just having a good time and crumping the whole time. So let's look at his win path. Let me just right away, because I might accidentally forget this. I don't want to. This was day 1, layout 7, which, if you know layout 7, has that big rectangular part right in the middle. That's good for staging up as well. Maybe I should have brought that up, but I think we can pull it up on your apps. Layout 7. Round 1 was Mission D, which is Scorched Earth and Tipping Point. So make sure I didn't mess that up, because I don't want to not mention that before I go into it. Sometimes I get going and then I just... So right away, he's going into with 1,000 Suns, which from what I remember when I was looking at StatSuper, should we just pop over to StatSuper again? I don't know. I think they were doing all right for stats overall. Not sure if that's going to remain, but just saying. Looks like a different version because he didn't have Magnus, it doesn't seem like. So, yeah. So we had triple Demon Prince with wings, and we had a double Terminator and Sorcerers and armor. So I know people love the Terminator spam, so we'll see what's going on. We have a Chaos Spawn, a Forge Fiend, 10-man unit of Scarab Occult Terminators, another 10-man unit of Scarab Occult Terminators with all their, you can see all their more gear. Two-man units of these Skatar robots, some Zangor Alliance, another 2 10-man units of Zangors. Sorry, how that's all chatted up in the bunched up in the chat is pretty rough. So yeah, if you're playing layout 7 on this and you have the double wagons, very nice that you can just run up stage with gas near the middle terrain, behind that kind of in that building. Then you can have the wagons move up, take that middle section that can actually be moved over as well to a certain amount, and pop those guys out if you need to. Like I said, with the Storm Boys when you start your deployment line, which if you looked at, I don't think it was this one. Which was it? What was that layout? Let me look at it again. Tipping point, you can get like right on there when I was looking at it again. Yes. Yeah. So tipping point at one section, you're like right up on the terrain. This is just, I'd already looked this over too, guys, but you know, when it's live, your brain gets a little like, oops. Yeah. You start right up next to that terrain piece, and you can't move your whole wagon through that. And from what I remember when I looked through, but you can definitely stage up behind that, and units can get out and start kind of launching from there, as well as gas can kind of be in there behind it. It's such a big staging location. And then on the north side, the battle wagons can move up and try to stage behind that one, where you can just really overwhelm your opponents in that case. Plus, remember, gas can launch onto, you know, what they could be considered their natural expansion, depending not on this mission. Yeah, natural expansion. Gas can launch through that terrain piece because of your Big Mac. That's the thing that I've had happen to me when I play layout 7 and 8 with the Big Mac and the gas brick. You know, people sometimes want to line that wall, right? That half box. Yeah, guys, this is my awesome display. That half box, they want to line it so you can't come through it. The boys and the Big Mac and the gas, right? Just run through it, jump onto their natural expansion if they don't want to play that. You know, it's absolutely brutal to armies that aren't expecting that. So love it. Great job. Overwhelming. 1,000 Suns is definitely a way to play them, right? Because they have the damage. But you just got to get on them when you can. Then we go into his second game. Yeah, make sure I don't mess this up. Where we go into the Necrons Awaken Dynasty. This mission, make sure I don't mess this up, was good old basic mission A, take and hold. Yeah, tipping point. Fantastic. So we have the Void Dragon, Luminor Suzeris, Emotech the Stormlord, Locust Destroyer, and double Scorpec Lords, followed by Technomancer, and this was Awaken, like I said. Okay. Reanimator, a Tomb Crawler. I haven't seen one of those in a long time. A big Brick of Wraith with the reanimating guy on the Feel No Pains. Double Doomsday Arc, Flayed One, and then a unit of one simple individual heavy destroyer, followed by some Ophidians and some Scorpec destroyers. Those small units are just kind of getting picked up from Orks, right? We appreciate that when we go into Necrons. We're like, thanks, we'll dismantle some of your stuff, and then just super punch out your units. Like I've shown before in past videos, yes, the Gaz unit absolutely bangs out this Wraith unit if it can make contact with all its boys and such. And one-shot it if it has to. Not always as easy as you would want, right? Because they can play defensively and try to stop you. But nonetheless, very straightforward. You know they're coming forward with the big old Void Dragon. He has the big old base. You can get all your 10 snaggers into a fight with him. Really give him a hard time. Luminor Suzeris still gets brought down by I've had this plenty of times. 10 knobs and a war boss on a wall. Just punch out Luminor Suzeris also. So yeah, not that it's an easy game by any means, because it's still Awakened Dynasty and Necrons. They can still do work to you, but it didn't bring the tools necessarily that are most intimidating to Orks. And you're playing a basic take and hold, so you're pretty happy about that. Only on layout 7, right? Myself layout 7. So then we move into his third game. which I've been seeing this as a pattern of difficulty for orcs personally, and it's happened to me before, where you go into the Grey Knights, the Warbane Task Force, doing all the damage, super reliable damage dealing army, and then they bring the triple missile librarians, which they all just act as big mortal wound bombs, a Tech Marine followed by Castellan Crow, and then 1 Grand Nemesis Dread Knight, 2 units of strike squads, triple Nemesis Dread Knight, still sticking around since the beginning of the edition, right? A 10-man unit of Purifiers, which absolutely brutalizes Orc boys and such like that. When they do come out to play, they're like, all right, pick you up, get out of here, next repeat. And then 2 more units of Purifiers. So yeah, these units are a little bit more difficult to get contact when it's time, right? And once they do, it's if you don't make contact with enough of them on the wall, they do have the damage reliability, damage profiles of damage. Typically, you're like, well, they don't have great weapons for dealing with something like a battle wagon, for example. They do get some assistance from that between the Brotherhood Librarians for their mortal wounds, possibly. And then also just their innate rerolls on everything will obviously help the Dread Knights push through some damage and too. So, and what the mission was here, from what I was looking at, which this was mission F, okay, hidden supplies and hammer and anvil. Okay, so primary there is going to be kind of easy to deal with. So yeah, I can see why that would be kind of an issue for him. He said he tried without Caldrago. That still worked out, Warbane style. So let me make sure I get some of those down here. So lost that one. No shame in that. I've seen that a bunch of times with orcs right now, with between the mobility of some of the Grey Knight units, volume, all requiring you to be like, okay, I have to come in a real unit because they have 2-up saves. I can't really kill anything reliably in skirmish. Yeah, it's a big deal, right? Your flash kits become almost completely irrelevant in that matchup when everything is taking a 2-up save the whole time. You're like, I have to try to get in combat. It's a thing. It's all good though. Then we move into his 4th game. Now, 4th game. Now, this is when the layout has changed. This is day 2. This is where he's now into layout 1. And he immediately goes into the Chaos Knights. Now, you would think, well, this already looks kind of like, oh, I can deal with this. Double Abominance, of course, is respectable. They got a good output. But when the Knights want to bang it out with you, right, get stuck in, they're looking for trouble, especially with this kind of archetypal lift that he has. Then we have a Knight Despoiler. Gatling guns are a problem, but you have bubble wagons. You can be safe in there and not really expose gas until it's time. 1 Executioner, followed by double Carnivores, again, trying to get in combat, and then 2 Stalkers, 2 Nurglings, and then a Beast of Nurgle. Now, the Nurglings can hypothetically slow your wagon and get in the way. That's why Mandos are so important as well, though, right? I've seen plenty of people say that I'll just run my transports without the Mandos, bring more killing stuff. That's really why you want the Mandos. Battle wagon gets in the wagon. That boy is having a hard time moving anywhere. And that's not what you want as an orc. Absolutely never. So, in that one, of course, matchup's going to matter to a degree where the Knights has to come get in their face. Orcs got to fight on death, and gas is lethal. You're blending those guys apart. And like I said, it was search and destroy. I didn't say this. Sorry. I said, like I said, it was mission J, linchpin, and search and destroy. So that's what I was trying to allude to is you also have the ability that I can just run up on kind of stage up real easily on you because you don't have long range popping of my wagons and then get out and just smash into you. I know exactly where you're at. You're close to each other. I can whip my units around and hit multiple different things, spread my lethals to the most effectiveness. So nasty matchup. Then we go into his next loss, which was into what everybody can relate to if you've been playing War Horde, a tougher matchup of the Death Guard. Not only was it Death Guard, but he was playing Mission M, which is Purge the Foe, a Crucible of Battle. So, again, kind of double things back to back on you to deal with. But hey, that's why context matter, boys. That's why we look at all this stuff if we can. Because you got to take that into consideration, of course, when you're looking at lists, but also you as the individual. I'm struggling. Well, if you play Interior Death Guard friend, everybody kind of struggles to a degree, right? Or can. So then we go into... but that doesn't mean you can't overcome it because you see my boy still did to get into this game for it being purged. So we have Death Guard with Mortarion's Hammer. I used to have a Death Guard army, by the way, so I don't hate them. I like them a little bit. That's why I say more his name like that. We have a Lord of Virulence, 2 of them. Good job on his end for just bringing 2 light characters because that means he's going to have some stuff, which he does. He has triple Predator Destructors with auto cannons and las cannons, so actually something to kind of threaten those battle wagons, of course. Then we have, I think it was 2, yeah, 2 units of Death Shroud Terminators as a 6-man, and then as a 3-man. Double Defilers, 1 floated bloat launcher, and then 2 units of Plague Burst Crawlers. Which at first you're like, the what's it called? Oh, we bought Blake Splitters. Okay, I was gonna say those side guns aren't as good anymore. But if you're bringing these flamers, he can be coming forward with them, and then he also has the Plague Burst mortar. So depending on the person, sometimes they'll decide I'm gonna go for your grots. That way you have to actually screen something with your home field, or I'll bring Death Shroud back there. Or they start, like I said, playing the Purge game where they start picking up little stuff like maybe some Mandos who are already -1 to hit. So who cares that they're -1 to hit? Maybe he'll go for some Storm Boys once they do get out and such. So there's that. And then also he can also chip units that are down. Maybe he just says, I'm going straight for Gaz's unit right away, just to make sure it doesn't be a threat. And he just starts throwing some Plague Burst Crawler mortars into it. That could be all be factors into this, right? That will determine based off the game scenario. But 65 points, so he was still in there, just scoring. Great job, Jordan. And then we move on to his last game where he came back loud and proud, getting stuck in Crumpin, where he got 100 points into the Necrons for the Scatter Star. So my boy was crumping Necrons all over the field. And whenever you see that from an Ork player, you know he knows what he's talking about. Well, not talking about. He knows what he's doing, because lining up that good shot on them, Orks always really have the potential when you build out the list right, and delivering it is when it comes to the skillful part, right? So great job here. We have Hexmark Destroyer, Emotech Stormlord, Neskor, and whatever. Overlord with the Translocation Shroud, Technomancer, and the Silent King. Yeah, we're seeing a lot more Silent Kings, right? Canoptic Reanimator, a Spider, a big unit of Wraith, double Doomsday Arc, a Flayed Ones, and then 2 units of Heavy Destroyers and an Ophidian. So 100 points, not much to be said there. Obviously, when you have the King and you have the Wraiths, these lists are kind of linear. I'm trying to come forward and see if you can take it. And the Orks are like, whoa, we're down. Let's get it. And that's kind of what happened here. It looks like. As for the mission, though, clicked the wrong thing. It was Terraform and Crucible Battle. So yeah, the Necron player had to come out, start playing Terraform. If not, Ork player just walks out, Terraform with the Mandos, Terraform with the Storm Boys, just decides I'm just gonna start terraforming everything. Necron player responds, Ork WAAAGH smashes into them, right? So not that it's that easy, but I'm saying you can kind of see how that plays out, right? And it was layout 1, like I said. So yeah, so my boy was able to get stuck in real nice. And I think the wagons were playing a big factor there. So with that being said, I'll go over his list one more time, and they'll go over the super chats because gets we're excited about him. It was a Beast Boss, a Big Mac with the Driller. I really like the Driller, by the way. Frick yeah, dude. 3 damage, good AP, barely any punches, but hey, I'll take it. Boss Snickrock, Gazgul Thraka. We got the Maz Rogue, which I really hope Maz participated. So, Jordan, have you ever see this? That's all we want to know. You know, how Maz do, right? Can you suggest him? I will say he definitely can feel great into certain armies, certain units, pump out some good damage, taking like 8 damage onto a Necron, a Catan to a certain degree, right? Especially in War Horde, he can spike it. So Maz could be cool with what's going on around right now. Try to take some stuff out. And it was an interesting take for him because when there's so many wagons, you know that Maz really isn't that most appealing of a target. He can be to certain units that have like the ideal profile where they're like, well, I'm strength 10, so I have to go for Maz. But you know that going to the table or playing with the table, right? So sweet. 10 Snaggas, 20 boys, 2 wagons, 10 flash kits, which of course I want to hear guys got to say about flash kits. 2 minimum size unit Gretchen. We got the Mandos, not left to say. The Ork Scalpel unit, 10 knobs. Yeah. Knobs with gas, knobs with critical 5 pluses, with gas and lethals. You know, my boy was packing some heat when it comes down to you want to stat check him in the middle, dude. You're going to smash through. And then we have 2 Storm Boy units. So really like how he just keeps everything nice, really clean deployments, I'm sure, with those 2 wagons and kind of Mandos coming out in certain spots, Snickra. So you really have good table presence, good threat range all over the field. You have gas there, so no one really wants to crash into you all stupidly because then you're like, here we go, fly across the field, smash into you anyway. So really good threat ranges and staging potential and safety and quick deployment and doing everything in good waves. So great job there. And I'm really excited. It makes me want to, maybe consider using double wagons. So let's move on to the honorable mentions. Let me see. Did we get a vote in this or did I mess up? All right. So before I end the poll, if you're here, and I'll time delay, so I'm gonna take my time. Get on that poll right now while I answer these super chats. I know you guys are here. I can see the numbers. I know my voice is alluring, so you can paint and just not look at the screen. But I need you to pick that poll real quick. All right, cool. Thanks. I appreciate it. If you can. So let me look at the super chats real quick. I see you guys participating for those who did. Shout out. I'll do the super chats and then I'll look at some more chats. So don't worry. If just because you're in the super chat doesn't mean I want to interact with you. Don't worry, guys. I love the gits. So Flynn, my boy Flynn, what's up, Flynn? 8 months. Yeah, Flynn, 8 months, only 8 months, but you've been in my heart the whole time. So he says, ever play Coliseum? Now, that's a whole topic in itself. But to answer, yes, I'm very lucky and blessed that I can play actually at work. So I do. If you ever check me out on Discord and such or what's going on, I actually do it more on Facebook too. I play Coliseum at work sometimes with some work buddies and my friends and cousins, and they can't handle the wall, to be honest, all the time. So that's also where I have fun testing. Now that you bring it up, I really swear on my buttocks that and my choppa that I played the Cult of Speed in Coliseum, and that's when I really realized, like, man, this has a little bit more teeth, even though it's a totally different context. The tools and how much I was able to get around and do stuff, I was like, this has more teeth than I initially was anticipating when I was still getting the army ready to be ready for 2K. So, yeah, and I've played a different stuff. So Coliseum's pretty sick. Totally suggest it. If you are newer to 40K and you have a collection of like 2,000 points or 3, whatever, and you're really just trying to figure out the game, trust me, just play Coliseum for a bit. For maybe, when I say a bit, I mean months, a while. Figure it out to where you're comfortable with your orcs, your dice, your timing, your units, differentials, and everything. And I think Coliseum is probably the best small platform to play that on, to be honest. So yeah, I think do it. 500 points, right? We're talking about Coliseum, 500 points. So yes, I played it. It's really sick. I answered that really long, but thank you very much, Flynn. Always the love. And he immediately said right after that, curse you, Death Guard. Well, $5 super chat. Oh yeah, we know, right? But if you're someone playing another detachment, you might be crumping Death Guard. Hey, so we'll see what's going on. But yeah, great job, Flynn. Thank you very much. You get very generous of you, like always. I appreciate the love to support the wall growth. And then we go to Drags Fire Able. I totally said your name wrong, but I still love you. He says, oh my God, loving Mark Perry's list. Just went on a 5-game win streak, prepping for RTT this weekend and GT in March. Have several Art of War coming to wish me luck. Whoa! I think that's Art of War, right? Okay. Yes, that's fantastic. Mark Perry's list has real teeth, real potential, and people, once you start figuring out and getting some reps, you understand what I'm saying. When you're first looking at it from far away, you're kind of like, this dude just crazy. What are you talking about? Like, I'm not doing that. But no, when you play it and you have the actual models, to those who can, so much potential. Highly recommend watching that video and list. It even makes me want to go back and try to play more DACA, even though I'm trying to look ahead to other stuff. It's like, I don't know, man. That's really swaying me, bringing me back, to be honest. So, one, thank you very much for being generous in $10 super chat. Very happy for you as well. And very, very proud, I'm sure Mark Perry is too, that you received it, you're able to get results with it, that you made sense in explaining it, and that there was something good to come from it. Because he wanted that. He wanted to come forward and show you guys, and he'd been developing it. So that's exactly why we do this on this channel, and we go through all of this stuff, right? It's not just to say, this is undefeated winning GT potential only, or you suck. This is like, no, you're having a good time figuring stuff out, still playing the army you want, real new ways, and then also still getting winning results. So fantastic, dude. That's what everybody wants to hear and do. Shout out to the Great Wall for that. Shout out to Mork Perry, dude. He's going for #1 Ork this year, guys. So you're probably going to be seeing a lot of Mork Perry around, to be honest. Yeah. So that being said, now I think it's time, now that I yapped a bit, get you guys good time. We're going to count down the polls in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, we did get some more polls. Thank you to the Gits who participated when I did the shout out. It has been noted to you, Gits. Thank you very much. And you can like the video too, I guess. I should say that way. Sorry, plug. So as for the win, I won. No, I'm just kidding. It went to our boy Nigel Perry's green tie with the Nigel's nutters. I didn't mean to say it like that. All right, we're gonna move on. All right, so let me pull this up when you guys. I see you guys chat. I wanted these to be more chat interactive. So if it gets long, don't worry. Look, we cut it down to shorter videos so you guys can appreciate it, bite-sized pieces. For the gets to think, not think the gets are busy. But for the guys that got time to be here, I want to be here for you too. It's really exciting. So thank you to the guys who participate in the polls and that are responding right now. Yeah, because we got okay. Let me get rid of. I want to get some of my tabs down because if I get too tabby, then I get lost in the sauce. There we go. So we're getting Nigel's list up and ready with the green tide. It was interesting that chat wanted to go green tide. I think people really would just want to see, is that the tech maneuver? What other people have said right now? Another guy, Prince Farming. I ran Mark Perry's list last weekend. Super fun. Trying it with the Mega Knob update. Yeah, I think the Mega Knob update made me want to play it more because I had already played it and I was like, okay, I think I'm done with this. A little too stringent time and annoying on deployment. Not sure if I like that. Boom, doing that, I actually ended up really liking it a lot. So sweet. How'd you know I was painting? Yeah, okay, well, thanks for doing that. How'd you know? Because I do that. Shout out to Morty and Glory, right? There's sometimes when I'm doing stuff, I'm like, I'm listening to Morty and Glory. I don't know what he's talking about half the time, but he's a cool get. So yeah, let's see what else. All right, cool. Make sure everybody's. Oh, Flynn again. Also welcome. A UK get the Big Mac Ashes. Whoa! I didn't see that kid. I don't know where he's at. Where's the Big Mac Ashes, dude? Where you at? Make sure you get in there so I can get stuck in with you somewhere. Dude, we crop it out. But yeah, shout out to the UK gets that are around here because you guys show a lot of love all the time, and it's always very humbling and exciting. Because honestly, my favorite content creators are all pretty much UK guys. So like literally, right? I think Winters, Mordian, and Paul's badass stuff. I guess if I had to say like top 3 for Orks, my favorite. Hey, what can I say? Well, I'm a get. So here we go with Nigel Perry, with the event that was named after him. I don't know. Shout out to that. So let's look at his list. We go to Green Tide. We have a Gazgul Thraka, a Pain Boy with Ruckus Warcaller. I really like that enhancement, and it's actually one of the least common brought enhancements whenever I look at Green Tide lists, by the way. Not that I don't think it's bad. I don't think it's bad at all. Trust me. Shout out to this kid. So Pain Boy, 3 Pain Boys, of course, and then 2 War Bosses, 1 Bloodthirsty Belligerents, and then 1 with Ferocious Show Off. So you can see here is he did the opposite of what I do somewhat advise, right? It's just playing with the enhancement that gives you CP. Pretty sure I'm forgetting what the name is, but it's okay. I'll come back to it. But I'm pretty sure it's not that one. Was the one I was looking at. Let me see. Now I want to look at it again. Yeah, it's Brutal Cunning, right? And I was like, I knew it was something related to being a cunning. Yeah? So he brought everything but the Brutal Cunning. But I really do like the Ruckus Warcaller because it keeps that unit at really high potential, which is what you would want, in my opinion, alongside Gaz's unit. So I'm 100% in line with that because as Gaz's unit's dying, he can still use all the strats optimally. So we have 1, 2, 3. Wait. Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The big 120. Woo! Yeah, okay, dude. I'm pretty pumped about that. I'm okay. You went the full all the way with the 120 gets, and you got the Pain Boys, and you got the gas. I'm feeling this list, and I'm feeling your back pain. All right, so then 3 minimum-sized units of Gretchen, 1 unit of Mandos. Still need that mandatory Mandos. Can't let those guys get the infiltration game on you. And then 1 Storm Boy unit. Very nice and neat. Very much like this list. Still has all the Gretchen you need. Just sit around, be more OC, and do stuff. It's all the infiltration. And you still fit a jetpack point on the list somehow. Awesome. Full gets. Very straightforward with what you're trying to accomplish here. And I'm here for it. So nothing extra to really break down there other than to look over your win paths, which were excellent scores along the whole way. And even when you lost, you still did a great job. So let's look at this Green Tide because Green Tide's getting left. Oh, of course, can't speak. 40K Dirtbags picking up Green Tide. Shout out to that gig. We'll be looking at results from him probably sometime here in the future as well. Anyone that wants to endure can get a really high ceiling potential from Green Tide. You just have to be a committed, real big war boss, right? And I like that. Oh, I just looked at your list. Get out of here. So let's look at his. We can't look at his first one. I just forgot that. But we can't look at his first one. But a 91-point win on that game. This? Yeah, that's what I thought. Just so you guys know, yeah, I didn't have the missions access. Remember, guys, you do get an event, you know someone, encourage them to hit me up. Go over some notes, missions, give everybody context. Be proud of what you do, Gits. But then we go into his second game where he ended up taking the W as well, which was against the Adeptus Mechanicus, which is with the Halo Creed Battle Clade. I'm a fan of the Halo Creed. It's fun. They get to pick 2 units to do other shenanigans, which they're faster, stronger, faster, mechanic, whatever. They can do stuff like that. Which makes their units act like little independent missiles, which is cool to see. He only brought Balasara's Claw, so you can act like an Oath army. 2 units of Scutaria Ranges, 3 units of the Iron Striders, Bellastari, triple las cannon, twin cannon chickens, whatever. As you can imagine, absolutely doing jack booty against that many orc boys. Right. But this is when we talk about you're going into countering the meta. People are expecting stuff like I have to kill heavy infantry, I have to kill big Necrons, I have to kill blah, blah, blah. Kings, I have to kill Primarchs, I got to kill, right? And then they're like, oh, I got all these ladder cannon shots for boys, I guess. Oh, that sucks. Then we have 1 unit of Skystalkers, a Servitor Battle Clade. That's one of their new unit Servitors. I think it's like they do an objective when they advance, and then they get a little bit of small arms fire and heavy weapons. It's like 2 of them, so that's kind of cool. I think it's a cool unit. You know, shout out to AdMac. It's crazy gets. 1 big brick of Scutarian Infiltrators, and then 5-man unit followed by another 10-man unit of Scutarian Infiltrators. A lot of volume of punches. These units generally will be like, okay, you know, Orc Boys can be a pretty good target for me. It's just the amount of Orc Boys, right? Can they blend all of them? Even these big bricks can't get through 120 boys when they start to blast into them and such, right? So it's like, and even then with the saves, they might not even finish them. But they'll do great damage with the taser goads. And then they also have 1 big unit of the Rust Talkers, one of those units that they can really give a lot of speed to and then throw them up the field to get the initiative. So that's one thing that they got going for them. And then double Doom Stalkers. A lot of small arms fire from these. I think they get something like 18 shots, some twinling shots on them. So it is to be considered in most normal matchups. He did have stuff, but he just spent, pretty much like when I say I'm not half, but almost like 40% of his points on Striders, right? So, and then Hull. So I get it. So big W there, 88-point win, but that was the least of all his point wins, right? So he wasn't able to, I don't know what the mission was, but he wasn't able to just straight bully through that, even though you have that much, because those units are very fast and dynamic. There's Rust Talkers and such when they're be able to give Creed buffs and such. So then we go into his third game, which is the Eldari Cedar Council. I don't know why I'm saying names like that. I just have fun with it. We got Eldar, Uthran, right? Whatever. Farseer, Fugan, Janzar, Slilax, Margan Ra, and then a Warlock. Bunch of little character hero hammer there. 5 Kosar Void Reapers, a Guardian Defender, some Storm Guardians, a 5-man unit of Reapers, from 5-man Fire Dragons, 10-man brick of Howling Banshees, Rangers, Swooping Hawks, and Warp Spiders. So obviously Howling Banshees and Warp Spiders, can give respectable output. But when you're playing with this many character like this, he's playing this kind of hero hammer-esque style. It's I don't want to be mean, but these guys are going in for one work endeavor and then getting worked. You know what I'm saying? They're just kind of getting eroded, rolled up in the wave, rolled up in the wall, right? It is roll tide, however those guys say it down south. Whereas just as they get in, they get to get the damage. There's so much more stuff still coming. Then you still have Gaz just running around, just like, okay, I just finish all your unit off, kill you. You smash my unit. I'm still a good potential. I still get my buffs. I give roll back some dudes. Boom, boom. Back. You imagine trying to. You don't get to re-kill Gaz's unit necessarily, but because there's so much of that same stuff on the field, people only have so many tools. It's like, well, one, you can use your own other mobs to keep Gaz's mob somewhat more safe. less bodies can get into it to really fully smash into it and activate into it. So it might be that you're just only able to hit Gaz unit with like half your potential anyways. And then whatever you kill, he grows back with Pain Boys and the strats. So then you just keep going, you know, like, oh man, that would be so sick. And it's so weird because I genuinely do want to play all these attachments all the time. It's like I just don't, you know, maybe eventually with Blessed by Gork and more time to figure everything out. But that's sick, right? If you can think about how all of these styles can be very fun to play, whether you're looking at last list we looked at, or you're playing this version or Mark Perry's version, or it's just a tactical brigade version. There's like a bunch of different cool, funny ways you could play Gaz and implement him as a problem. And that's what's going on here is he just rolled them up. 95 big points right there. Then we go into his loss, which was into the Space Wolves. Oof. Now, what I will say is when I was playing more Space Wolves, and if you've heard me talk about Space Wolves or Green Tide at all, you would note that I use the Space Wolves as a problem scenario a lot of the time. So yeah, not that I think you can't win it. I'm just saying it serves actual problems. So we have Saga of the Great Wolf, so they give themselves like I think lethal sustained as well as they go through and kill stuff and get tougher. So we have Arjak Rockfist, pretty good Terminator fighter on his own character, just meant for fighting. Then you have Bjorn the Fell-Handed, great data sheet overall, getting stuck in with a lot of Ork boys. He can do all right. Interestingly enough, he actually had the assault cannon, which played out better for him in this. He gets into a fight with Bork boys, he's hitting with the assault cannon, right? And typically he has las cannon. So it's like, ooh, there's a couple more getting killed. Then you go into a captain with Terminator armor. He's going to get the -1 for strats. He has an enhancement for Grimnar's Mark. He has a lieutenant with combi weapon. So then reroll ones are getting integrated in the mid table. You know the Bork boys always have to be on objectives, like I always talk about when you're playing this. So you know where they're going to be. You know what you're going to have to reroll ones, so that helps the whole army. We got Logan Grimnar on his own. Then we have not on his own. I don't know why I said that. And then we have a Wolf God Battle Leader, followed by 5-man unit of intercessors, summon Cursos, and then double Redemptor Dreadnoughts. Not necessarily like, oh, these are going to really bother my Ork boy units. The thing is that they're staying alive and they still have OKOC, and you can throw them right into the lines. You know, between Oath and what weapons do they have on there? They do have their macro. They still have the Gatling, right? So it's like, oh, okay. Then they cause your commitment to try to kill them, or they just keep kind of eroding you a little bit. Then we have Scouts, a big unit of Head Takers. Now, the Head Takers, if they have the Feel No Pain, there's a chance they can still take out Gas. But ultimately, what it really is, they can take out your other characters, your Pain Boys, your War Bosses. You start dismantling those guys out of the Green Tide units. That can be quite problematic for that mob. It falls apart very quickly. It doesn't have the damage for what's to come next. The abundance of Terminator. So he has 5 Wolf Guard, 3 5-man units of Wolf Guard Terminators. Right. So this is one of those units that they'll just meet you around the line. They have a good amount of wounds, good amount of punches of attack. They're cheap enough, and they'll just fight you over those objectives as well, getting additional buffs throughout the game when your head takers are killing characters and such. So depending on the mission, which I don't have context for, you know, it's not that they can't win this matchup. It could be just that you're not, I don't want to say you're not familiar, but you couldn't avoid maybe the head takers taking out certain characters or popping away gas. Maybe too many boys bopped off all the Terminators. And you know, he used the Redemptor Dreadnoughts to not allow enough of certain mobs to get into certain fights with more ideal targets. And then all these little characters that are still running out, they could do precisions alongside the head takers. So the whole character slot is kind of getting cleaned out, maybe even Gas, you know, outside of the wall. And then in there, you just have the bodies left. So I understand how that can kind of go awry. Also depends on mission. So just putting context out there, right? Space Wolves have a lot of attacks, unique profiles, and unique little buffs that work to their advantage against Orks, like even head takers or their style of Terminators and point costs. Saga of the Wolves, an all right, pretty solid, respectable way to play Space Wolves. So yeah, and remember, he fought this guy in the 4th round after taking 3-0. So that guy knew what he was doing, and he won the event. So shout out to him. And it was so yeah. Then we move on to his last game, certainly not least, which is the Wrath of the Rock, Dark Angels. So we have a Azrael, Captain in Gravis armor, Captain Terminator armor, Lieutenant with Combi Whipper, and then Lionel Johnson. 2 5-man units of Jump Pack Intercessors, then 3 5-man units of Deathwing Knights, followed by the Eradicator Squad and some Inner Circle Companions. So you can see there are some very interesting similarities, right, between what he just played and what he had to play here. But you have some kind of hero hammer. Then these aren't, I know they're not epic characters, but they are hero hammer-esque when he's trying to buff these guys up. He still has Deathwing Knights on the list. They're not the same necessarily as the Space Wolf Terminators. Personally, I think Space Wolf Terminators, of course, for points, right? They still have a lot of wounds. They have 4 wounds a pop, and they cost 170 versus the 250. So also the other guy had more stuff. He also had more volume of some of the stuff on his characters as well. And the Redemptor Dreadnoughts, which, like I said, it's not that they're super efficient at killing characters, but they are kind of corralling the mob so the mob can't overwhelm these units that are trying to endure their 1 AP punches and then respond and keep eroding the units, right? And then he has Lionel Johnson. Boom. So Nigel, I don't know what mission this was or what happened here, but he did not let the mistakes happen last time. Put a big fat 100, got around the similar things. Of course, they don't have head takers. Their characters a little bit different, less super punchy characters because, like, sure, these are good characters. Like a Gravis Armor Captain is solid, but he's not a Arjack Rockfist, for example, right? So yeah, great job there. And there's only one dude here, Lionel. So great job, Nigel. I'm sure a great fight on death happened there. I can't do fight on death, Green Tide, though. But yeah, shout out to you, Nigel. Oh, let me show this list one more time. Very straightforward. Gaz, Triple Pain Boys, Double War Boss, Ruckus Warcaller, Bloodthirsty Religions, Ferocious Show Off, 120 boys, 3 minimum-sized unit of Gretchen, a Mando unit, and then a Storm Boy unit. Boom, got it done. Great freaking job you get. And great job to the Great Wall and everybody that's going on here. So we'll go more into chat a little bit. Remember, paint competition, get in there. If you're on Facebook, get in there. Let me know. I want to see a little bit more gets, hopefully. And if you've won in the past, you can win again on this one specifically, right? Because we're making this interesting since it's a limited model anyways. So yeah, awesome, fantastic stuff. Let's see a couple more things that gets got to say. What's up, Richard Kilton? Yeah, whoa, to the big boss, Richard Kilton. I'm sure you're doing great out there. Hope all is well. He says, roll tide and whoa. Okay, I knew that would get someone going, dude. He put his paintbrush down. He was sitting there paintbrushing. He was like, hold on. You say roll tide? All right, so thank you for that. We have any day you see your green gorillas crump, it's a good day. It's kind of hard to choose when our toolbox is so big. Our detachment tools are so big. I would say we're kind of using similar same units across some of the detachment, considering how deep our codex is. But yes, the detachments do make me want to kind of figure it out. It's kind of fun. You got a little bit of, I still kind of have a little bit of call to speed left in me. I might do another after action report for that. If not, the members vote. If you got a channel membership today, check that out. Like, you guys might want to do bully boys. I don't know. I might try some pigs, see the best if I can do. Try to, so we'll see. We'll figure out what I can do with that for fun. We also have Dread Mob, which I'm a big fan of Dread Mob. Might have to throw 18 cans on the table and just say what's up. More Mark Perry's list. What else would be fun out there? Randomly Green Tide. That might be just from talking to 40K Dirtback, but I don't know. But Green Tide is looking exciting. I don't think I'll do that, to be honest, just because I'm like, my bag. I don't feel like doing that. But I do have that many boys, and I have been playing them. So we'll see what's going on with that. Shout out to the whoa for Gomez Boss. Oh, look what's going on. What's up, Wicked Joe? Hey. Oh, haven't seen that yet in a while. How you doing, Joe? Great to see you guys. Very exciting to see. Painting up some Mandos. Yeah, Mandos are awesome models, though. I really like my Mandos. Yeah, I think I have like 30, I don't know, like 35 Mando bodies because I have the old ones that I kit bash myself. So yeah, Mandos are just super fun to use. Interesting how more than 10 Mandos have been being used a little more and more. Mind you, I think you just need 10, but it can happen. It can happen that you do more. So with that being said, I think we're coming to a close. Hey, guys. So I think Orks definitely have what it takes to play right now, but it does require you to take some commitment to kind of smooth out the problems, understand what's within your meta and accommodating to that, not simply based off the units you see that you really like that are online or that you hear are online that you like are good. It is obviously very common to run the gas and the Big Mac combos as well, but you don't have to limit yourself to just the same style you see online or running. What I do appreciate with Orks right now, which I think we shouldn't take for granted, is you don't need to bring a lot of the same data sheet all the time necessarily, right? I'm not bringing just 30 flash kits or 20 knobs, right? Or 40 boys every single time. It's like, here's some snaggers, here's some boys, here's some knobs. You know, some people throw in some breakers. You know, people will throw in some mega knobs. It's like, okay, at least you can kind of spread your collection out as you're figuring this out as well. So there is a good an upside to that. But we also know that with the Dawn of War coming, you know, I'm getting even more excited. Something I'm thinking about right now with the one that just came out, we'll talk about more on Friday, is what if the WAAAGH banner is coming back? What if the knob with WAAAGH banner is coming back? Who knows? I'm in that edition. I'm not saying he is, but how did that slip our mind this whole time? I don't know. No one's mentioned that either, but I'd be very excited for that. So as a whole, I'm just working on some backlog. I'm going to do probably a hobby stream on Friday because I'm trying to get all my models readied up so I can just jump detachments and do whatever I want. Want to end this edition just playing more events, doing more after action reports, getting used to that so that when 11th edition starts, I have that refined, that kind of content refined. That way you guys can get more from the channel and we can have a good time getting stuck in. So I'm excited. And thank you very much to Blood Moon's Murder Mouth. Whoa! Hey, so if you got a channel membership, go vote on that poll, right? And if you guys force me, I will try Dread Mob some more, take its RTT or something, just get knock it to the head, right? But I'll do it. I'll do it, dude. I might even throw some, you know, squigs on that list, get some pigs on there. I don't know. So yeah. Oh goodness. I know. Sorry, Murder. Thank you very much for the 10 gifted memberships. That's huge, right? $20 gifted is insane. That's crazy, right? Imagine me and you are chatting and you're just like, I love you, and here you go. I can't even imagine that, to be honest. So thank you very much. It always is very humbling. But I know you're also excited, Murder, to see Joe say, I pledged 150 orcs to paint. We might have to do that, right? I've never done that before, you know, but what if we have to put on like a paint this much model by next edition? So if you guys know how to run that, I think I see my boy Morty and Glory do that before. I might have to do that. But Joe, I know you are gray as can be on them models, boy, because Joe is traveling around America in the literal sense, guys, running his pigs, kill rigs, beast nega army the entire time since he started. And I like that he's taking some time to paint up and get the other stuff going before next edition. Very wise, Joe. Love to see you back, and I'm very excited. You just gave me an idea that I should do that before the next edition starts, right? So fantastic. And thank you, Murder. That's very nice of you to say. Amazing WAAAGH Wednesday. It's been a while. It's been a while. And I thought like I was taking my time, but I'm surprised it's only been an hour and some change. So hopefully Rewatch Gang likes it too. Tiger, what's going on, Tiger? I have the metal OG one. I have a resin finecast one. I kibash my own. I love the knob with wall banner. Yes. I still have my knob with wall banner. I don't have a red finecast one. If you have a metal one, I don't even know if I think I've seen the metal one on pictures from other gets, but yeah. Speaking of old stuff, guys, I still to this day have never found my gas. The gas before the one we have now from 8th edition, 7th edition style gas. Still found my get. You just reminded me, Tiger Mouth. I missed that model. Yeah, awesome. I think he hoped he comes back. Now, where did I get that idea from? To be honest, it was from Dawn of War, the official trailer and the comments from the devs, where they were like, "Oh, we can activate the wall banner." Who's to say a knob with wall banner wouldn't come back? I've been saying that orcs need that. Now, what if they bring them back? Do you like attach them to a unit, not like a character necessarily, but like an actual banner? I guess he would have to be a character. But he might be like one of those characters you can only bring if you already have a character on the list, so it's not just like him on everything. Who knows? But I didn't think about it fully yet, but I feel like we need a Nob with Wall Banner back to bring some wall back to get some aura buffs. That'd be very exciting. That's the thing I really want to see the most about Orks next edition is some kind of, well, there's two things, right? Two things is I need the wall that's in the game essentially being brought, the Dawn of War game to be brought to reality for the 40K game where it's a escalation wall where it's progressively stronger, more riled up. The more stuff you destroy, the bigger your army gets, the more wall energy you get, the more buffs you get. I would really appreciate that. But on top of that, I'd really like to see more synergies between units or a clan or buffs or something that isn't based off just CP, WA, leader on my unit. Kind of flat in that way. So I do have hopes, but there are big things in the how GW writes Orks in 40K compared to other stuff, which is very lackluster. But that obviously never deters me. I'm pumped. And anyone else? I would like to see the Nob with Wall Banner come back. Yeah, Daniel, that's what I'm talking about too. Whoa, that's what I'm a lot of people, right? Like kind of like the ancient works. Yeah, like you were saying here. Anybody, any else things that the Gits have set in chat? Oh, here we go. I see you. The Big Mac Ashes. There you are, boy. What? He says, first time making one of your streams live, nearly 2 a.m. here in the UK. Whoa, dang, I wish I would have seen you a little sooner. Dang, I'm like an hour behind on that. Oh. Well, I'm going to have to, guys, give them a comment in the chat for the rewatch gang for the Big Mac Ashes. Thank you for being here in the UK Gits. I was just saying how you guys give me love. Here it is. The more we grow, hopefully I can do some maybe Saturday streams, and maybe earlier in the day or something. That'd be cool to do once in a while. Usually I'm playing 40K on Saturdays though, so it's hard, but I can consider that for you Gits out there because it is very interesting whenever I do get those other stream times going where guys from the UK or other parts of the world get on and start talking to me, and I get super pumped about that. So just shout out to you, Git. You're encouraging me to do a lot of different time. Anybody else left in there? Mega Nob with Wall Banner. In general, we just need the banner aesthetic to come back. Period. Right? I'm just talking about banner. When I see the new Nob kits, I need a banner. And that's what I'm talking about. Maybe a Nob banner is brought back in that way, which is like kind of like they do with Demon-esque units where they're like, I got a banner, I do this or whatever, like Sisters. I don't know who else does that, but I would love to see that we have our Nob and the Nob has a banner and he does stuff like an icon. Oh, someone's saying that right now. I see the banana, sure, coming back as a used to be unit upgrade, exactly equivalent to the CSM icon. Yeah, something like that. You pay for points, you upgrade him. That'd be cool. And I'd like to see a bunch of just banners on my Ork units. If you look at old Ork for Orks, 40K as a whole, we love our banners. It makes absolute sense too. So like, I want to see banners on units. We got to bring that back, GW. What are you doing? Tiger, yeah, Uriel gets like 4 banners. Don't forget Eldar. So with that being said, shout out to you guys in the chat. Thank you for showing up for WAAAGH Wednesday. Leave a like, share it. Let me know if we did good. What else you want to see? I'm getting pumped up about the wall. Let's get this stuck in, lads, because there's always one thing to keep in mind. Is don't cross the wall, because we'll knock your teeth out. Ooh.